Hello there, welcome back to McLaren. This is going to be part 2 of our challenge where we're going to be trying to make McLaren basically win the championship in Season 1. And so far, it's gone fairly well. We're just a little bit over 20 points behind Red Bull. We have both Sainz and Norris performing fairly well. And if we can keep this up, we could have some fun on the horizon. So we have the British GP in 4 days. We have a pit crew training schedule to go through. And generally, a little bit that we need to do with manufacturing, but unfortunately we have the factory shut down. So we'll just have to live with that, being the case. So far though, the car is fairly good. We have the best car in terms of DRS effectiveness and cornering for low speed. Second best at medium and high speed corners, and the sixth best car in cooling. So honestly, the car isn't that bad, and I believe it's only Red Bull that has a little bit of an edge on us in the cornering department. So yeah, it's looking really good right now, and with a couple more upgrades, it's going to be looking even better. The main concern that we have with current strategy is just that we have absolutely terrible dirty air tolerance, but that isn't actually a huge concern. With the car that we have now and the drives that we aren't really running behind any other cars than the Red Bulls for the most part. So we're actually in a pretty good spot, I dare say. But we're going to go ahead, set up the training schedule for the pit crews. I have been experimenting a little bit, but nothing too conclusive in terms of how the pit crews work. But that'll be out in a couple of days, still to get a little bit more experimentation to do. But I think so far, we should be a-okay. But as you can see, we're already weary after the Austrian Grand Prix. We're going to be weary going into the British GP. And we're going to need a little bit of rest before we go to Hungary. So what we're going to do here is just put in a couple of standard missions so that we can keep the pit crew skill up. And for the rest, we're just going to be working on the pit stop error chance, getting car building up, and it'll be, again, just a little bit of an experiment on how we can handle the pit crew errors. But yeah, nothing much you can really do mid-season, and there was a suggestion too that one of the reasons why we're seeing higher pit crew weariness than expected, if it isn't for the number of pit stops or pit stop errors or anything like that, could be straight up from the sponsorships. There is one sponsorship that is race hospitality. Pit crew performance will decrease on each race day that team host sponsors in the pit. And that could really be the case here. So keep an eye out for this one. It might be giving you higher fatigue, because basically what this seems to do is that it lowers the stats of your sporting director, meaning you get more fatigue, you get less fatigue recovery, and generally just a bad time on race day. So you might need to make absolutely sure that you're on 0%. And honestly, with 18 of these, if we have a look in the calendar, we are having race hospitality at the British GP. So we're actually going to go ahead and go back to the pit crew, because we have a very good pit boss. And we're going to go ahead and change that schedule so that from the British GP to after the British GP, we're expected to be at 74%. We have nothing planned. So we'll have a look at the Monday at 65%. Just note it down real quick. And we'll see if that has actually, proven to be the same. But I'll have a more in-depth video on that in the near future. For now, though, we're going to speed along, get to Britain, get the race done, and see how we perform for the second half of this season. Qualifying for the British GP is over. Looks like we're going to have another recovery drive with Lando. But this is basically where our car is with Sainz. We are the second quickest car around in just pure pace. But we have to take into consideration the fact that, things don't go too well. There are others that are competitive as well. So we are going to need probably a couple more upgrades to make sure that we clinch the championship by the end. And we have those coming. Side pods, the chassis. So we're going to have a look at where we stand this race. And then we're probably going to just summarize the rest of the races until we get those upgrades. Unless, of course, we have interesting moments, our drivers crashing, or just generally things that will not benefit us, let's put it like that. So, pre-practice report, compound performance here. Softs are pretty quick, 5/10 quicker than the mediums. The mediums are 3/10 quicker than the hards. Degradation-wise, mediums hold an advantage for about 15 laps. Softs holds an advantage over the mediums for a little bit more than 10. So, all tires are kind of the same. Now, Norris had something a little bit interesting happen during practice. iSim practice, just keep this in mind. This gearbox has reached 0%, but it's not broken. And sometimes when a part reaches 0% but doesn't break, you can sim practice while having your driver kind of sit out. And what happens as a result of this is that they will send back fresh soft tires that hasn't been used. So because they didn't do any runs in P2 or P3 as a result of that gearbox that is broken but not really, we have 2 sets of mediums and 2 sets of hards for the race itself. So we can put Norris onto some pretty aggressive strategies here just from that. We can go hard, for instance, which I don't think I've ever seen before here. Medium, hard. And this is Norris, keep that in mind. Norris has max smoothness, so putting him on something like this should be a lot quicker than one might expect. So this is a blessing in disguise, but that's also probably why he qualified as poorly as he did, because he didn't do any running in P2 or P3. His level of confidence starting compared to Sainz was lower, and he didn't reach as high confidence during the runs in quali. So that's something you might need to keep an eye on if you sim practice, but it can also be a blessing in disguise, and particularly on tracks like this where you kind of want to save, say rather have medium and hard tires rather than soft tires, it can be something to do on purpose in order to make that happen. Now, this is maybe one of those tracks, but not really. So again, bit of a blessing in disguise. Nothing that you would probably want to do, but you can get the idea. You can understand why it is somewhat beneficial. And for Sainz here, we'll put him on a different strategy that is medium, hard, medium. And he's not going to be much slower because of it, 3 seconds or so. But that should be fine. Let's see how we do in this race. And again, this race is just being shown for reference purposes on how we perform versus the rest of the grid. We'll be summarizing probably most of the other races this season.
The British Grand Prix anticipation is high, and the drivers are ready for this. The British Grand Prix. And it's lights out, and away we go.
As always, we turn down error chance generation, if you will. And it looks like Sainz has had a not too stellar start there, already kind of falling behind the Red Bulls.
Overtake available if needed.
Which honestly isn't, the end of the world. Norris is still locked in 7th, and Sainz did lose out to the Red Bulls, but as I said, not really a problem. We'll be getting them later in the race for sure. Unless, of course, we have incidents. I don't want to be too certain because that is a way to jinx yourself for sure. But yeah, same tires here for everyone except for 4 soft runners. So we should see most cars here pitting around the same time. And for the first stint here, I enjoy just sitting back, relaxing, and kind of allowing it to run its course. Because most cars will be pushing fairly aggressively for the first few laps. And that is kind of, there's nothing really much you can deal with that. You'll have to use energy, you'll have to use fuel, you'll have to use tires, unless you want to lose places. It looks like Russell and Sargent has had a little bit of a collision.
And you can see how the cars come together. That will have knocked their confidence, I'm sure.
Yes, the confidence has been knocked. I assume they might have damage. I see it looked like the Williams got hit in the back. Could be some wing damage. But yeah, as you can see, with the Red Bulls pushing, we are actually quite a bit slower here. Down 1.8 seconds already. So we aren't super quick. That's the thing. And we might need a little bit more work here. Red flag.
Red flag. Red flag.
What exactly happened here? That is the weirdest red flag I've ever seen. I guess he stole the car? Because I don't think Norris crashed into him. Oh, Ocon. They crashed further back. That makes more sense. So I guess we had a four-man.
Guys, I got hit.
And Ocon seems to be out, potentially. I guess that makes sense. But yeah, the fact that Stroll, I believe it was, spun, stole the car, and then we need the red flag is... I don't know how to describe it, peak irony. But it does also put us in a bit of a vulnerable position here. So we've done 5 laps. So I think we're going to stick to the same plan we have, but we're going to put both cars onto a soft tire. And we're going to gamble on that soft tire living long enough to get to the first pit stop. I think it will be fine, but if it goes wrong, so be it. But it should be all right, is what I'm hoping for. And apparently we have turned on the sun.
The drivers are lined up, awaiting the lights.
A very rare event in Great Britain, I'm sure.
And it's lights out, and away we go.
But yeah, we're going to have to deploy again. And Perez on hards, Verstappen on hards.
Yeah, good pick.
Norris getting a little bit of a good run in at the start. But the fact that there's a lot of drivers on hard tires is slightly concerning. But we are going to have to make our way past them pretty quick. This could also be a little bit problematic when it comes to pitting, because we're on a soft compound. We'll be pitting way earlier. But it could also be beneficial in terms of getting overtaken done. But with a lot of cars, as I said, on hard tires, luckily not a lot of them further back, this could also work to our advantage. So it's not a horrible situation to be in, but we do want to set up a new base strategy to use here. And we are going to be pushing the softs, and then we're going to be jumping onto the hard, then the medium, probably the hard for Norris. But as you can see, for Sainz, this does work out kind of what we anticipated, with using the softs, then a hard, then a medium. And we might just do the same for Norris here, we'll see. For now though, as I said, we'll settle into this first stint. We'll have to try and get Sainz and Norris past the Red Bulls here, and hopefully earn a little bit of time here on these soft tires. That's going to be the key. But it's also going to be a little bit difficult, I think. So let's do the best that we can. Sainz is already charging ahead. And we are running out of energy, so let's get that to neutral. But we're still going to keep on pushing tires. We're still going to keep on pushing energy. We still have some temperature to go on here. These can go up to 130 degrees. So I am not too worried. For now, though, as I said, we'll sit back, relax, and work our way towards that first pit stop. We're getting to a point now where we need to consider pitting. As you can see here, Norris has gotten stuck with Perez, unfortunately. A little bit of a gap has formed between Verstappen and Leclerc. But both of those are on soft tires as well. And it's going to be a while before everyone actually ends up pitting, because as you can see, we've used all our tire, they've used less. Sainz will pit this lap, and if he's lucky and doesn't have an error, he should come out around Piastri, at least ahead of Magnussen. So that shouldn't be too terrible to work through. And we will be putting him on the hard tire. It's just the best option for us. Norris, we're going to allow him to do one extra lap here, because he has tire enough to make that viable, whereas Sainz did not. So there we go. Let's get Norris in, put him on the hard tire as well. And Sainz here, probably going to beat Gasly at the very least. But then he's going to have to contend with the DRS train of Hamilton and Alonso.
There's been a crash.
Let's see who's crashed this time. De Vries and Stroll by the looks of things. Shaves a little bit off the front wing. But yeah, Stroll has been spinning a few times, so he's down in 16th. And he is a bit of a danger right now. We are going to go ahead immediately here and allow Sainz to just recharge. Gasly might overtake us just because of the fact that we have less performance due to tires. And of course the fact that we're recharging. But I think it is worth it to get energy back before we catch up to Hamilton and Alonso. And doing so should benefit us. Norris here comes out ahead of Magnussen, which is the biggest DRS train. So he isn't in a bad position either. And he has energy, so we'll just leave both of them as they are. And try and move them forwards before the final pit stop. But currently I'm very, very happy with our progress. Verstappen has just pitted. And we actually came out in front of him. So Norris and Sainz said that first pit stop went well. Verstappen has opted to go for another hard. Opted to go for hard. He was on soft tire. But as you can see, the hard run is ahead of us here. They are down to 50-ish%. So We'll probably be pitting close to them. In Sainz's case, he's going to be overtaking Paris pretty soon. But as I said, we'll probably be pitting very, very close to them, which honestly isn't a bad thing. And Norris gets the overtake done on Alonso as well. And by the end of this race, because as you can see, they've done about 20 laps on these tyres, they're down to 50%. Verstappen's tyres are going to probably be down to about 40, same for Leclerc. And that should mean that even if we pit onto, you know, fresher rubber, we shouldn't have any massive problems. And as you can see, degradation isn't any higher than anticipated either. So we have a lot of leeway on when we pit and what we want to pit onto. We're getting very closer to a point where we need to pit Sainz in particular. And I think we can do that. We ran basically 2 laps once we get into the pit lane, longer than we wanted to. So it's time to jump onto the medium. In terms of the gaps here, 22 seconds plus 9, which is the expected pit times, put us a 10 seconds behind Perez, but ahead of Alonso, which is going to be key here. So it's not bad. He should be able to make up the gaps, so to speak. And right now, he might actually make it out ahead of Perez. So that is really, really good. And you even have a little bit of a show defense there, but that's going to give him DRS. Well, he would have gotten it anyways. But if Sainz can clear Leclerc on old hards and have Perez kind of get stuck behind, that would massively benefit us. So it is looking somewhat promising here, although I did turn on recharge in the middle of a DRS zone. But yeah, we have a very, very angry Perez on our tail. Now with Norris, we have a little bit of a harder choice to make because Norris doesn't have any fresh softs. It would be beneficial to actually put him onto a fresh set of softs right now. So I think we'll just pit him onto a medium. I think that is going to be the key here. What is expected to be quicker, medium or hard? Medium is going to be quicker by a second. So we're going to pit Norris here this lap onto a medium. Should probably just have pitted him with Sainz. And as you can see, it's estimated to come out 12 seconds behind Perez. But that shouldn't actually be a problem. And we'll be working on getting Sainz up into the first place again. He should be getting Verstappen. Verstappen has older hards. We can run way more aggressive than he can. And that should be a big, big bonus for us. Norris here comes out an age ahead of Alonso. So that is pretty good. And I think we're getting closer now to just wanting to launch that attack on Leclerc. And we might even get it here before the DRS zone potentially. But if we can get it with DRS, that should be a piece of cake. But not this time around. We take him later on the straight. Now, energy is going to be a little bit of a concern here, but giving Leclerc DRS on this straight is not actually bad at all. It forces Perez to stay behind for longer. And you can see just how much quicker we are by pulling away right away there. We're not a lot quicker than Verstappen, but we were running behind another car for basically the entirety of the last lap. So I want to see what kind of lap we can do now that we are free from that. And that is 1.4 seconds quicker. So I'm not really concerned about anything here. And what I am thinking that we'll do with Norris now is try and go for fastest lap. We have 10 laps to go. I think Norris can still catch up to a podium place. Don't get me wrong. But we also do want to get that fastest lap point if we can. That's a point snatched off Red Bull, which could be very, very important. So we'll run recharge for a lap or two and then go for that. But Sainz is getting hounded by Perez, which isn't great. But at the same time, it's not a huge problem. Perez is on softs. They're going to start falling off pretty massively. And with that, we don't really have anything that we need to really worry too much about. So I'm fine with the current situation. The main problem, though, is that we're kind of struggling to keep up with Verstappen. But let's see now if Norris can set fastest lap. And if we can, close down and catch Verstappen and then go beyond him. Fastest lap in the books there, 27.6. I don't think that's going to get beaten, so we'll just turn down the car a bit. And we are going to have to run harvest. Just a tad. Purple in all sectors, 27.6. Currently running 30s, 29s. Unless someone puts on a fresh set of soft tires, we should have that one in the bag. And now we also have DRS to car in front. So we'll tune down a little bit here. Being second in a DRS train is beneficial for actually cooling your tires and getting a recharge going. And it could potentially allow us here to clean brake freely. sorry, to have a clean break from Verstappen. And we'll just try that now because we did get the overtake done. And we get it done, I think, before the section here. So that should allow Sainz now to just run away with it. There is, again, 2 reasons why we want to get clean breakaways, particularly when we have a second car hunting, and that is basically makes it easy to catch up. But we'll have to see what Norris can do. 5 laps to go. Can he get a podium slot here?
I believe.
Yet another incident in this race. Just want to have a look at it in case it causes any safety cars. There's been a lot of those small taps, basically. But so far, Norris is 4 seconds behind the Red Bull. He's gaining 2 seconds a lap, so getting Verstappen should be doable. But getting Perez here might be a little bit too much for us. We'll see. We have enough energy that we're going to go full deploy, I think, on this lap, once Norris crosses. And then we're just going to keep deploy running till the end of the race. So that should give us a little bit extra oomph so that we can actually catch the Red Bulls easier. Not going to have DRS here, but we're going to have DRS in the second section. And if we can get him in that section, or even before, right now, then hunting down Perez is potentially not a complete dream.
Now the focus is on Lando Norris here. It's certainly inviting.
Very nice. But yeah. Looks like we are going to have a pretty interesting final lap here. A lot of cars slowing us down. That Williams, in particular, being an incredible nuisance. And we do have a little bit of energy here that we can push. And we have caught up to the Red Bull. The question is, do we have enough energy to get the move done? And we are going to go high on the overtake aggression, which I rarely do. But in this case, I think it might be... we might be forced to. We have used the entirety of the ERS battery. But we did get the move made. And we'll turn down to balance it just so that we don't run out of fuel.
Yes! Well done.
Right then.
Love that Sainz is celebrating while Norris gets the overtake done because he won. But yeah, we did get that with the help of DRS. Very important. A final lap overtake. And we do manage a 1-2. And that is basically what our car is capable of if you manage the drivers right. The car is a little bit weaker than Red Bull's, but we do have a strategic advantage that we have taken, well, that we've used here. Let's put it like that. And that's basically how we're going to be doing the rest of the season. But I'll be showing you a little bit of the gaps, if they get bigger with upgrades, if the other teams bring upgrades. But I do want to open the video like this just to kind of show you what we can do with a little bit of careful planning, if it be. So 1-2 for us, 3-4 for the Red Bulls, Leclerc 5th, Piastri 8th. Then we have Alonso and Stroll actually made it back into the points. Hamilton and Gasly for finish out the points. So yeah, that's up into first. 1 point ahead of Verstappen. Do really want to get a 1-2 though, so Norris here needs to score a few more points, but not a bad result. And we're now just 5 points behind Red Bull in the constructors, so definitely looking up here. Now we did want to check the race team fatigue, I guess it was. And we also completed the chassis design, which I believe is actually an upgrade, so we'll have a look at both of those. But first, let's have a look at the sporting director, the pit crew. That is the wrong tab. I need this tab. And let's see what we're at right now in terms of weariness. So we're actually exhausted. And if you remember, the estimation was that we were going to have 65% worth of exhaustion at this point. We're currently at 83%. So there is something during this race weekend that has given us more exhaustion than estimated. We had no pit stop errors to explain it that I saw. If we did, it was a very, very minor one. We had extra stops because of red flag. If that counts, that could be a factor. So we'll use this as a reference too. But we did have that pit event. So we'll have a little bit of a look here. We are not going to be doing pit stop drills because we are hitting a threshold that we don't really want to be at, 12%. So we're going to do this. Will be 3%, 31 is expected, 22 there. And we'll be checking the calendar to see if Hungary is going to have high fatigue. Because as you see, this is brought down up to exhausted. But at the same time, we're more worried about the Monday. 65 versus 83 is a pretty significant change. And again, the main thing of that too is that the sponsorship isn't worth much, if anything. 500,000 for 18 events. So again, the idea that they have it that sponsorships balance things out or creates team personality by giving you debuffs and negative events, I hate this system. It's a poor implementation of this. It would should rather be more organic, like media circus, driver attitudes, things like that. Some drivers are more confrontational, some are just like I spun, and that should be reflected in this game. Unfortunately, this was the best way they could have that kind of team and driver personality. Confidence was supposed to do that too, but unfortunately it's just a very, very shallow implementation. And particularly when you're forced to take sponsorships, which you are, sometimes at the end of the season as well, it just becomes very, very annoying rather than bringing character, in my opinion. But yeah, we'll take a look at that at some other time. Sorry for ranting. But yeah, this is where our car is at. We did have one more thing though, and that was the chassis. Let's have a look at that. And compared to the current chassis, it is a small upgrade. Nothing too major. A little bit of high speed, a little bit of medium, decent amount of top speed, and a good chunk of engine cooling. So we are going to go ahead and manufacture this one. Excuse me. My stomach is a little bit upset with me today, so if you hear any weird rumbling sounds or grunts, that will be why. Spa Francorchamps, we're gonna get one chassis for Budapest. That is it. I'm not gonna bother rushing this upgrade. So let's just do it like that. And what do we want to put into this design slot then? Because we have done a chassis, we could potentially keep on developing that chassis, but we do have CFD time, and I'm a little bit unsure what I want to invest into that CFD time. Front wing could be a really, really good option here, in all honesty. And let's just have a look quickly at the workshop again. Well, we have made more designs by suspension. We have a few of these. The underfloor. We just did that one standard intense into the final version, which usually is good. Side pods and chassis we're developing normally. Front wing, we've just made one version. Rear wing, I believe we are developing it rather aggressively right now. So what do we want to spend this this on? I think we might go front wing again. I think that might be the best option. We do have a rear wing design in just one day, so I'll have a look at that too, because the rear wing design to focus onto cornering is something that I find a little bit interesting to try out. And honestly, what we need right now is a little bit of a cornering advantage, and we could get that with the rear wing. So it's kind of a rough situation, kind of a rough decision rather than a situation right now for me. Figure out what we want to invest in. We could keep on developing the front wing. It's not actually a terrible idea. Could make a front wing that's more suited to low speed, but we lose so much medium. But I think what we're going to do now is, as I said, we're going to keep on developing chassis and side pods with 2 slots, because we still have a little bit to go on here. We haven't reached 70%. So let's do something like this, where we sacrifice some of that engine cooling, because again, this is a 1-season challenge. We're not going to need a lot of engine cooling. Drag reduction and airflow would be nice. So we're going to do this design again. Build expertise, 1 month, August, maybe get it out in September, we'll see. And we'll have a look here now in a day if we want to invest in the rear wing, or if I want to invest in, I think, the front wing. One of those would probably be a good bet. Now, we don't actually have a suspension available, but it is already being manufactured, so I wouldn't be too worried about that. And in terms of the warehouse here, let's just take a look at what we need to make right now. Rear wings are just 2. That is a little bit concerning. But we'll take a look at the design we're making before we make any decisions to get more of them. So just let's go ahead, get that sorted, and then we'll figure it out. Double point for last race. I'm going to put against that. And let's see now what this rear wing actually is set up for. Schools invitation, sure, we'll attend. And the rear wing is a cornering one, so we need one more design. And with that, I think we are just going to go all in, because we've already invested a little bit into that rear wing. So let's do it a little bit interesting here. Again, this might not be the absolute best way to develop the car, but it's one that will give you a decent effect. And that is kind of what we're hoping for here. So let's go ahead. We're going to invest in these 3 stats. Could invest a little bit, of course, in airflow sensitivity. But I think, again, just getting cornering ability on your DRS is going to have a huge, on your rear wing as well, it's going to have a huge effect. Because it affects all 3 stats, but it takes a little bit of effort to get running. And we're just going to rush both the projects because this is a CFD wind tunnel project, and we want to get them out quickly. And we'll get it, if we do this, in time for Sandvert. So that should be very, very fine. But with that said, that means we do need to manufacture a couple of rear wings, so we have enough for the next couple of races, and that should be it for, well, everything. Let's speed along and see how we do in Hungary. Our rather uneventful Hungarian GP comes to a close. We finished 1-2, and as you can see, there's half a minute between Paris in 3rd and Sainz in 2nd, 14 seconds up to Norris, and we lapped everyone up to 9th place here with Norris, well, Piastri here with Norris. So it was a pretty good race for us. Verstappen down in 6th gives us also a huge advantage over Red Bull, so we'll definitely take this one. Driver Championship then. Sainz extends his gap, even though he finished 2nd. Norris closes down by finishing 1st and getting fastest lap, so that is good. And in the Constructors now, we have taken the lead. Another good weekend at Belgium. We finished 2nd and 4th in the sprint. Leclerc won the sprint. We had Paris between us, but with a 1-2 here, it's looking really, really good. Verstappen did eat a penalty, which is why he started pretty far down. Paris too had a bit of a penalty, so both Red Bulls taking penalties here, which of course, considering that, this is what you'd expect. Leclerc actually managing to get to 3rd is, I'd argue, pretty vital for us here. That's going to benefit us for sure. Piastri in 6th, then the 2 Mercedes drivers, then Alpine's Ocon, and then Albon. So, pretty good race. Sainz still pretty cemented here in 1st, but now we actually have a Leclerc here with a little bit of a charge. He's 15 points behind, and Norris here, 3rd place, 199, now overtaking Verstappen, but if this was Belgium, in reality, I think it would be a very, very entertaining season, as we have 4 drivers potentially in it, 5th if you count Paris here. But yeah, looks like this could be a little bit fun, but we'll see if this might end up getting settled a little bit sooner than we'd like to. We gained twice as many points as Red Bull. We still had a healthy gain over Ferrari, 21 points. So currently, the lead is looking very, very good. We have the mid-season board review. Position is 1. We have beat the long-term objective, and the board should be very, very happy with us. But yeah, we're going to be doing a little bit of development with the car over the course of the break. We have some front wing failure, rear wing failure, underfloor failure, and we might as well go ahead and just replace those right away. Unfortunately, we don't actually have an underfloor to replace it with. And, well, I do hate looking at red, but it is what it is. Now, in terms of development here, it has been slightly delayed. You can probably guess that by seeing the rear wing now have 7 days. We lost 8 days because of the an error with the designs, which we had to, of course, investigate. So that slows it down. Probably not going to have the rear wing as a result before the Dutch Grand Prix. But I'm fine with that, honestly. It's better to sort that out than take the chance, I feel. So it's basically just a necessary sacrifice, depending on how you want to look at it. Development update, point of cornering and adaptability. 3 points of cornering for Norris. Man's becoming really, really dangerous. Honestly, he probably has better stats, everything, if you take everything into consideration. And now with that triple boost cornering, he could definitely end up being a tad bit quicker. Accuracy here and currently playing into the favor of Sainz. So I'm curious to see which one of these guys is going to come out on top. Norris also has a huge advantage in his smoothness. So that's going to be fairly interesting to see here. And with the base schedule here, we're going to end up with a very, very tired pit crew. So I'm going to go ahead and set it up custom. And we're going to focus on just maintaining the pit crew attributes here for failure, but I'm also going to try and max car building and see if that has any effect on the pit crew's fatigue gains. Here we are, this is what I opted for. We keep the pit crew attributes here maximized, somewhat, and we also get a little bit more car building going. Now, I have also gone ahead and just set it up so that we are going to be maximum 32, 23% for Sandboard, and I'm also thinking that we're going to have a look at the calendar again and see if we're getting hit with a hospitality event. We are, so we'll try and keep tabs on the percentage that we expect after the race weekends and the actual percentage, and see if the race hospitality event makes sense, because if it does, it's going to suck for anyone that has any of those lined up for them. But with this said, we have set it up. It will be a secondary goal of this. And the car development, I don't think we've done anything that would... Well, we did get that new chassis that would explain this one, but we're still losing a little bit out in medium speed, losing a lot out in acceleration and top speed. But again, acceleration is basically just a measure of your engine. Your engine is going to have the highest effect there. Of course, you can influence it somewhat with your parts, but in general, you'll be seeing the biggest gains from the engine that you're using. Now, the current suspension here is one that we still keep on developing, so I'm not going to stop. Let's go ahead and keep that going. And you might think that making a million parts that are kind of the same might be a horrible idea, and I'm not going to say it isn't from a, expertise gain standpoint, but it is going to help you in the potential long run here, which is what we are more hoping for. This is what we'll go for, I think. Again, we just want to get that top speed back if we can, and we'll just do it as a normal development. And I'm looking forward to seeing the rear wing now that we can actually make in 5 days when that design is done. And as I said, we'll not have this ready for Sandboard, but we'll have it ready for the race after that. So that could be very, very, very good. Now, we did put in safety time, so we need to make a proper one. And we're going to go ahead and do just that. So, as you can see here, this new rear wing, even with just the sliders here in the middle, is still going to be a fairly massive upgrade. Like, this is actually a very, very good upgrade for this late in the season. 20 Gs, well, 0.020 plus Gs across the board. Some dirty air tolerance, 7%. 9%, well, this is basically 10%, let's be honest. Extra DRS effectiveness, and some extra top speed. And not much more top speed we can actually bring out of this right now, but it does give you an idea. And if we want to, we can focus on particular stats like the low speed cornering. But at this point, I don't think we have a need, because this is going to be enough to propel us back into first place for DRS effectiveness, low speed, medium speed, and it's going to be a pretty... What part of... Did I make a chassis with extra weight? Is that what I'm seeing? No, it's because we're lacking suspension still, I believe. Yeah, it's still 0%. Oh, sorry, not 0%, 0 kilograms. I got flashbacks there because at one point, just a quick explanation if you don't know. At one point, I maximized the weight on a rear wing because I was probably going auto and just maximizing the sliders that I thought I needed to. And I maximized the lifespan because I'm a silly goose. But yeah, this is a very, very good rear wing, and definitely probably something that I should start implementing, because this seems to be really, really good. But might be that we are investing a little bit too much into getting this done. What I mean by this is that we've made 6 rear wings this season, which is, well, the same as we made chassis, but rear wings are one of the things that takes the most time to research and design, for that matter. So it's kind of more of a problem from that perspective. But that rear wing is going to be great. We just need to get it made, and we'll have it debut in, what is it, Mexico? No. Sorry, Italy. Monza. My calendar senses are off by, what, 5 races, 6 races, 7 races? Something like that. Round 20 versus round 15. So yeah, not too good of me there. Underfloor. Other things have been manufactured. I do believe that we are, for the most part, caught up on parts. Need one more chassis. Let's just get that started. And what else do we need? Front wings basically caught up. Rear wings, we're going to get new ones, so it doesn't really matter what we do here. Underfloor, should get one of those. I believe we're already making suspensions. We are. So let's go ahead and manufacture an underfloor, and that should be good. Car now back into order, and I'm looking forward to seeing now how we're gonna perform once we get that rear wing, but we'll get through the next GP, and then we'll see how we stack up for Monza. We've finally gotten our factory upgrade to level 3, which means we now get 4 manufacturing slots. We also have designed the next piece of the chassis, the underfloor has been manufactured, and generally things are looking up. Now, we're also going to have a new underfloor design done in a day. We've got an event that's quickened the time, so that is good. But I think we're going to keep on developing the chassis here, at least one more time, and potentially even another one after that. You could argue that we should use intense development at this stage, but the higher your expertise, the less effective intense you get, and we already have less than 50% of our cost cap remaining halfway through the season. So while we still have some to use, we need to potentially buy engines, ERSs, and because I would like to be on the safe side, we don't want to use intense because of that. It's just a little bit too much. But however, if you say have a regulation change where you lose a lot of your car performance, the massive one, for instance, in 25 to 26, then using intense can definitely be worth it, for sure. Underfloor design complete. Let's just have a look at what we did for this one. Top speed and dirty air, by looks of it. And that isn't a terrible idea. So we'll do one more like that. And we'll go ahead after this one has been made. And then we're going to make the proper version, I think. And that should be good enough for us to use for the rest of the season. It's going to take 43 days, 38 of September. So we only have it for a little bit of October and November. But even then, it's basically just forward designing. So if I want to continue this save, I probably would have gone for switch to research at this point because our car is rather dominant. Well, it's not really dominant, but you as a player should be able to take this gap all the way to the win. So might switch over to research focus in the near future. Chassis per manufacturer brings our count up to 4. And they are concerned about the gearbox. Norris's gearbox during the last Belgian GP bicked or just hit slightly below 40%, and they don't like that, let's be honest. But that isn't anything that we need to worry about, in all honesty, because we'll just switch it out after practice, and that is not a big deal. Let's go to Dutch GP and see how we do. We're in the Dutch Grand Prix, and we've had an incident. As you can see here, this is Sainz's car. It's in the wall. Looks like we might have had an incident with Stroll here, seeing that he's offline. But yeah, this looks not too good. We at least have a puncture, rear right. I would assume we've been slammed into the wall then. Minor damage to engine, ERS, and gearbox is also not great, but I believe most of these were pretty bad anyways. We can use Norris as an example. So he's running a pretty bad engine, pretty bad ERS. But even then, this isn't great, don't get me wrong. And we have thermal damage to chassis, front wing, and major damage to front wing and suspension. So, pretty big incident here, honestly. And just lucky that we didn't get clipped. And that is a bit of a problem. Safety car has been deployed. I'm curious exactly what happened here. Ferrari is involved?
Right, we're taking the second corner.
Piastri getting revenge?
Jostling for position.
Oh.
And the impact on the car, it's quite clear.
Okay, I want to see what happened to
It's pretty obvious who was at fault.
I want to see what happened to Sainz though, because he came back on the track. Did he end up crossing and hitting the wall on the opposite side? Because that's what I feel must have happened. It's just a shame that I don't think we'll be we'll be seeing the entire thing here. But yeah, I would assume what happened here is very simple. Piastri tapped him on the back. He had 8th penalty too. And Hamilton has picked up some sort of damage too. But yeah, the only thing that I can explain it is that either Sainz just got tagged, then he veered into the wall afterwards, or he got tagged, came back and non-safe on track, hit Hamilton, then hit the wall. So it is unfortunate, but we'll deal with that. I still think we have a great chance of winning this race, so we'll see what Norris can do. To make matters worse now, we've had an incident with Norris, and this is Norris overtaking a back marker. Norris is currently running in third. And
so close.
yeah, that was probably on Norris, which is going to suck. But he did get front wing damage, and we have done our final pit stop, so I think we're just going to have to stay out. There's no other option than that. But yeah, Norris runs to the back of a back marker, and that's a problem. But at least we didn't get a penalty. I guess we'll take that with us. That front wing damage could be massively problematic, but we have decided to convert a soft tire into a hard tire by running light. It works rather well. And I think we should still potentially be able to catch Verstappen, but as you can imagine, we're going to be losing out a little bit of pace due to the front wing. And as you can see, there's been a pit stop after 14 laps. That was due to a red flag. Piastri wasn't done with just that one incident with Sainz. He caused another one that caused a red flag, potentially messing up our strategy even more. But Norris is up in first, Verstappen a little bit behind here. We'll have to see if we can hold on till the end. The race has reached its conclusion. Verstappen was quite a lot quicker than us at the end here. Jumped us by 12 seconds. We didn't really have any choice with the tires, honestly. I don't think this was mostly the front wing. I think we would have gotten caught anyways. But we did lose at least 6 seconds when we crashed, and we had also some other incidents. But again, I think Verstappen would have got us, so it didn't really have any effect. It did get pretty close though with Leclerc, but salvaging second here with the bad luck that we had is honestly pretty decent. That does put Verstappen though back up into the top seat for the championship, but the top 4 here separated by 5 points is pretty interesting. And in the constructors, they do gain a decent chunk on us, but it is what happens when you have a driver DNF, so we'll deal with this as it goes. Now, I am curious, because we only did 1 single pit stop, well, 2 if you count the red flag. I'm very curious about how it's going to look in terms of the pit crew, because, well, the rowing design is complete for 1-2, but in terms of the pit crew, we were expecting, I think it was 23%, let me just check the note here, 23% tiredness right now, and according to this we're at 36%, so I think pit stops has something to do with it, because this doesn't match up like even closely. We were expecting 23, we're at 36, that is 13% more, but if you consider the fact that we had in Belgium, Silverstone, the earlier race that we checked, it was a much larger gap, but we'll keep it noted. It was another day that we actually had pit stop issues, but it wouldn't surprise me if pit stops have an effect on fatigue, but we'll have to figure out exactly the relationship between the event and the pit stops themselves, because we did 2 pit stops here. That is less than you expect at Zandvoort, and we still gained vastly more fatigue than expected, 13% in this case. So we'll see exactly how that kind of plays out. We'll have to deal with the damage to Sainz's car. We're probably going to take penalties in terms of ERS, at least for both cars next race, and we have a bunch of failed paths and also some other things that we need to deal with as a result. But for now, before the next race, we are going to get the 2 rear wings going, because this is actually going to be pretty nice to have in Monza. And it should help us with getting, back up front. So we're going to go ahead and rush those 2 parts. And the main concern I have right now is that we might not actually have enough parts here to actually replace everything that took damage. And I'm pretty sure that is going to be the case here for Sainz. That we're going to be lacking. I think it's the suspension for the most part. And yeah, we're lacking the suspension, so we're going to have to run him on a older suspension. It's a little bit of a difference, particularly the brake cooling, but we don't really have any choice. If we rush it, we can get it in 5 days, which I believe means that we can use it for the race, so let's go ahead and do that. Just need to remember to put it on before the quali on Saturday, and then that should be fine. But yeah, we are going to have to build up some parts safety, if you will, again, and that is exactly what we're going to go ahead and do. So let's see how we do over at Monza. We have that new rear wing design done. I think that is the final rear wing design at the very least. Side pods. Where are we at with these? I believe we also are based on the final edition of side pods as well. So what we could do is sacrifice some engine cooling if we need to. We could build something like this and have it kind of saved up for the end. But what I'm thinking we do is do this. We maximize top speed, acceleration, and then we have a monster part that we can use for the last couple of races if we have parts that can kind of withstand it. And if not, we'll just make a couple of iterations until we can. So let's go ahead and do this. It's going to be done sometime in October. It's still a bit of a gamble, but that is honestly okay at this stage. So let's head to Monza and see how we do. Before we head to Monza though, I just wanted us to have a look at the new car with the new rear wing compared to the Red Bull. We're still 2 kph off the top speed, we're still lacking acceleration, but we have a decent chunk of DRS performance now compared to everyone else, and we also take in the first place again in cornering ability with a pretty sizable gap here in the low speed by 0.3, 0.03. I always forget there needs to be a 0 in front of these. Barely any gap in the medium, and a pretty significant gap on the high speed. So we should have actually a really good race around this weekend. And as a result, I'm pretty sure that, well, we're gonna hopefully still be able to have a good result while taking the penalties, because we are going to take ERS penalties here. I'll have to see if we need to take any engine penalties. I'm hoping that we will not, but at the same time, that is kind of harder to predict. Let's put it like that. Month has also tipped over, which means that we can have a look at the driver updates here. Smoothness for Sainz, accuracy for Norris, we'll take that. And I believe we need to go and have a look at the pit crew training schedule here. And once again, we're just going to go custom. And we should have 30 or 21% on Monday. Let's see what we actually end up at. And we're actually going to set up a pit crew schedule from Monday going forwards in order to figure out exactly how much of a difference, well, we get from this race weekend. Qualifying for Monza could have gone better. Lando down in 8th, Sainz in 3rd. But as you can see, a lot of the cars around here are taking penalties with the exception of the Red Bulls. We might see a Stroll on the front line. And generally here, just it's going to be a bit of a miserable time. As you can see, not the best qualifying session, honestly, but this is because we had hard, medium, then soft. And we just couldn't compete here on the soft tyre versus Leclerc and Verstappen. So it's kind of understandable for Norris, honestly. Well, not really. He is running an older engine than Sainz is, but even then, it shouldn't have that much of an effect. Now, we are going to have some moderate rain, and with the 10-place grid penalties here, that's not something that is really good, honestly, particularly not when we start on rain. I didn't think it was going to rain the entire time. This is going to be problematic, because this means we're going to be inters the entire way till the end. No way around it. And we suck at overtaking in the inters, so this could spice up this season a little bit, basically mean that we are going to suffer as a result. But I think the best bet we can do here is just do a 2-stint, full attack, and that is probably going to be the best thing that we have available to us here. Around lap 28, 27, we want to pit, and we're just going to do the same for Norris. We'll have to see, though, just how hot the tires get. If they get too hot, we might have to slow things down a little bit, but we're going to stick with full attack, try and make the best out of it, and see if we can still, you know, make up some places and end up higher than we might expect. Let's see how this race goes. We ended up 5th, sorry, not 5th, we ended up 3rd and 6th. I saw the 5th here and it was just like, oh, we ended up 5th. No, we ended up 3rd and 6th. The only cars to pit, unfortunately, the traffic, because of how far back we started, was actually enough to slow us down. I don't think if you ran them normally, we would have had done any better. Unfortunately, Norris got a little bit held up behind the two Mercs towards the end of the race. He also hit yellow on his engine, so potentially that might have had an effect. But it's just unfortunate that we had rain here, because if not, we would have performed better. At least we did beat Perez with both drivers, but with Verstappen winning, it's basically just a little bit of a bandage on the wound. Just a little bit. Doesn't really have much of an effect. And Verstappen extends his lead here now pretty significantly, which of course is also going to be a little bit of a problem, but we'll try and deal with that as we go. Now, we are still in the championship, but Red Bull caught 7 points. Honestly, at this point, I still think we're fine, but again, the weakness for my car is basically the fact that we do, why am I stuck? That we do focus on cornering. Dirty air is not a, focus, and particularly in rainy races where you don't have DRS, that comes back to bite you in the ass pretty hard. But it is what it is. We'll just have to deal with it. A few races every year with rain is still tolerable over being just generally slow, I feel. Now, in terms of the pit crew, let's just have a quick look here at what they look like in terms of fatigue. 51%. Okay, that's tad more than expected. 42% there. So they gained a good 21% more fatigue than we expected here. And if that has to do with the race hospitality event, that would be really, really annoying. But it does really seem like that would be the thing here. And we only did 1 pit stop for each driver, and even then we ended up with a ton of extra fatigue gain. But it is what it is. We'll get going here. We have a suspension design to finish. We have some new regulations to deal with. So let's just get into that. We have a completion of the suspension design here. And we also have rear wing, front wings manufactured. But more importantly, we have also a new ATR period, which I think we're just going to put in the suspension because I think that's really the only thing we really have time for. 10th of September, October, November. So we don't really have a lot of time to get these parts designed and manufactured to actually have any sort of effect for this season. So what we're going to do here is just invest safety time into this. We could, of course, do something else, but for now, we're just going to go all in like this. And even this is actually a pretty decent upgrade to our suspension in terms of the top speed, a little bit of cornering, a little bit of brake cooling, but it will be a bigger upgrade once we actually get the other stats. We could, of course, go for the medium speed, which is kind of what we're lacking. Sacrifice the top speed again. This could definitely be something we could do. But I think we'll go low speed cornering again. It's just, I feel like it just makes more sense for the suspension. And if we can get, again, some top speed back as a, benefit of that too, I would be happy. So 18 days here. It's going to be 18 days plus times 2. We might have one done for Austin if we're lucky, but we should be able to force both of them to be done for the last 4 GPs. So a little bit of a final upgrade of the year. We are running low on cost cap too. We have at least bought the ERSs, but I am worried that we might need an engine. So we'll keep that a little bit on the low side. Now we have driver and staff here. Red dots. For now, I will not touch these. I'll just leave them as they are. Let's put it like that. We do have also regulation mode coming in just a second. Financial changes, more to the winners, less to the midfield. I'm going to vote against that, honestly. There's no reason not to vote against that. And before I forget, I do need to get some suspension work started. Let's just make one of these for now, because we are going to be, focusing on getting new ones out there. With that said, we got everything sorted. Let's jump into Singapore and see if we can extend our gap to Red Bull and, catch up to Verstappen and Leclerc. Well, before we go into Singapore, we might have a little bit of problem with getting that suspension in time, because as you can see, the science center shut down for 12 days. That's going to be problematic. We have a temporary shutdown. It extends the it up to 28 days, say a month. So these designs are probably going to be some of the last that we do, and there's just nothing we can do with that. But let's go to Singapore and see if, again, we can catch the 2 cars, or 2 drivers rather, in front of us. We just stood no chance against Verstappen in this one. Unfortunately, he finished first. We're second and fourth. A little bit unfortunate here. Nothing really happened. We just got stuck, particularly after the pit stops. Norris here did have an error that probably cost him at least a chance at getting at Verstappen, but nothing we can really do about that. Verstappen getting a pretty sizable lead here now as a result. Constructors, we still have the lead. We still gain more points than Red Bull thanks to Paris finishing behind us. So it is still looking good for us, but at the same time, driver championship is slowly but surely drifting further and further away. And as I said, we did lose some time to the pit stop, and this put us behind a 4-man DRS train, which probably cost us just as much time. So a rare pit stop error after a while puts us in a bit of trouble. Suzuka, we did a rather good 1-2 here. Verstappen third though, so we don't really get a ton of points on them, or rather to catch up in the championship. But it is a 1-2, Red Bulls 3 and 4, then the Ferraris, then Russell, Alonso, Stroll, and Hamilton. So honestly, we're still very far behind Verstappen, but at least we have closed the gap a little bit for both of our drivers. We're now 2 and 3. And in the constructors, we extend our lead by quite a significant margin, I'd say. Chassis design is complete, but I think we're reaching the point here now where we don't really have time to get any of these upgrades onto the car. So if we wanted to make a chassis that would be an upgrade, we could try and make this one. It would be a minor upgrade, don't get me wrong. And we could also go the opposite route here and get some of that top speed back. So what I'm thinking that we're going to do here is limit the losses somewhat. We're still going to lose a little bit of cornering, but we're going to get 0.6 kph gained. And that should be okay. This is going to be the final design, so we're going to rush it. We're going to put 200 S on it because that's all we have. We're not going to have it in Austin. We're going to have it for the last 4 races most likely. And again, after this, we're not going to be developing the chassis anymore. Same can be said here for the underfloor and side pods. The only really thing that we're going to be doing is the suspension. So any more designs here, with the exception of chassis and suspension, are not going to be upgrades. I'm pretty sure we can't really do anything with these, mainly because we've had things slowing us down like the design center fire. So we'll try and deal with that. But as said, chassis, suspension, those are going to be the final upgrades that we will be seeing on the car. And even then, we're just barely keeping up with the top teams. So yeah, been a little bit challenging from that perspective, but at least we did get 1-2 last time around. And adaptability, accuracy, and cornering, Norris developing very, very nicely here, in all honesty. And the pit crew is having a slight bit of an issue here, as they're still tired. And I will be noting down the numbers here, but it's not looking very promising for the hospitality event, let's put it like that. But now though, let's jump into the next race, Qatar, and see how we do. The Qatar GP and sprint is over. In the sprint, we ended up 3rd and 4th. Basically, we've switched Lando with Verstappen, Sainz with Perez. But here we did take a 1-2, and we also managed to snatch fastest lap from Verstappen by just 5,000. So a little bit of a vital gain here that he's down in 4th. The Perez was a little bit quicker, but ideally we would have preferred to have Charles up there too, ahead of him. But that is what it is. We did steal Sainz, so I guess that is our punishment. Driver Championship then. Sainz and Norris, for that matter, do close the gap a little bit, but because Verstappen won the sprint, he still gets 20 points. We get 25 and 30, but we are getting closer. So again, could be a little bit of an interesting fight at the end here. Constructors, though, we are pulling further ahead, just barely, but vitally we are pulling ahead, getting a decent gap. So I think Constructors is kind of sorted. The interesting part is going to be the Drivers' Championship. So as I mentioned before, the suspension design here, we're going to make another version of that. And this design here, they're basically going to be the final ones. These are basically just for expertise gain, because of delays we won't really be able to do anything with them, and that is fine, honestly. Bunch of failed parts though is kind of problematic, but I believe we're on top of our parts anyway, so that is honestly fine at this point, but you can imagine that it is a little bit of a concern. But basically, I just want to show the final design phase here before we are basically kind of done with the season in that regard. Honestly, if I was planning to do this for more than just this season, I'd probably start researching halfway through, probably after Belgium at the latest. Just do keep that in mind when you see how I've been doing things here, that this is not really the most optimal way of doing it from, you know, trying to get the most out of the car perspective, if you will. So this is probably what we're going to go with. Again, we could go for, you know, sacrificing a little bit of that cornering ability to get more top speed back. And I'm a little bit unsure if that is what we want to do here, but it looks to be potentially a decent choice, honestly. Is it worth the loss, though? That's the thing. I think it is. And right now, we don't really have any brake cooling problems, but I'd still like to get that up there, honestly. So this is what we'll go for. Only high speed minimized, but even then, it is a decent upgrade. And if we do rush it, we're going to get it here towards the end of October. 18 days. Then we, of course, need to make them, so we can rush one for Brazil. But we're basically just going to have this final upgrade for the last 2.5 GPs, if you will. So take that as you will. It's also going to take some of our cost cap. That too is okay, and we might actually merge the manufacturer of Brazil potentially if we need to. So we do want to have some cost cap available if we have to go a little bit beyond what we expected. I did really want to make another design here for the underfloor to kind of try and make it a little bit more competitive. But because of the situation that we find ourselves in, where things have been slowed down so massively, I don't think we really have the opportunity of doing that now. But if we were to do that, it would be a little bit of an upgrade. Massive upgrade in terms of the kph here, 0.8. We were 2 behind last time we checked. So if we were to rush this, put engineers on it, which we don't have right now, we'd get a 10th of November, 29 days. We'd have it for Las Vegas and Yas. So do we want to gamble? I want to see just how good of a car we can make. So yeah, we're actually going to make this underfloor. And we are probably going to end up reaching cost cap doing things like we are right now. Just keep that in mind. If we go into the expected cost cap here, 21 million is the reality. So yeah, do keep that in mind. And we might see what we do with the side pods then too, because I don't think these would be much of an upgrade. Let's just check. They're basically the engine cooling, fully sacrificial ones that we decided to make. But yeah, we could use these for like the final race if we really wanted to. But for now, they're not going to be developed. Although I do see that I need to manufacture a couple of them here before we have an incident that costs us a lot more money. Let's put it like that. So I'll get the manufacturing done. We'll get on top of the parts, and I think we are good right now. No, we're not. So do I want to get one more? Yeah, just to be on the safe side, let's do that. It does, again, affect the cost cap, which is problematic, but even then, I think it's for the best. And rear wing, let's get one more of those. 5 front wings should suit us for now. And we have the United States in Grand Prix in 6 days. But before that, I believe we have yet another design project complete, which is that chassis, the final edition. So I don't know why I decided to manufacture another chassis. Can I get this refunded? No. Well, that sucks, but it is what it is. So we'll just have to live with it. I'll probably just refund it and build the chassis anyways. But let's just have a little bit of a look here at what that chassis looks like. If I can find it. I'm stressing myself out here a little bit, but yeah, it's a top speed increase again. That would be kind of neat. So let's get that made. Just gonna cancel that chassis, which is again wasted money, unfortunately. But we aren't gonna need this one. So let's go ahead, put it away, so to speak. And the chassis here, let's just check how long is it until we have the next race here. It is a triple header, so if we want to get these chassis onto the cars, we're probably going to have to not really emergency manufacture, but at least rush them. So 6 days, then we have 10 days, and even then we're just not going to get them in time for both cars. If we do them normally, 18 days, 17 days to Sao Paulo. Let's just do them normally. We'll have them ready for Brazil doing this. So again, kind of maximize the car here towards the end of the season. And I think that is an acceptable way of doing things. And just make sure that we have enough money. We'll keep these slots open. But I would usually, as I said, use these for research at this point, honestly, because we're getting hit for regulation changes everywhere. But since it is a pretty low regulation change, it's not something that we can't, deal with next year. But that is what it is. Let's jump into Koda and see if we can snatch some more points. Pretty good performance here, Koda. We ended up with a 1-2. Leclerc in 3rd, Paris in 4th, and then Verstappen down in 5th here. Not having a good race. Hamilton almost getting the better out of him. But still, this puts us in a great position to catch up to him, for one. And we have Sainz have now taken the lead. In the sprint, we ended up 3rd and 4th. Verstappen further down the grid. So it's been a really, really good weekend here in America. And Norris here now is also very, very close to 2nd place. Constructors, we now have an incredibly healthy lead with 4 races to go. I think Constructors is settled. Driver Championship is still up for grabs though, so we'll see how this actually ends up squaring up. Another relaxing, pain-free race, another 1-2. Leclerc in 3rd, Paris in 4th, and Verstappen in 5th after a pretty bad qualifying. So all in all, things are looking on the up here. Verstappen has had a couple of bad results, although finishing top 5 is, well, it's only a bad result if you're in Red Bull, really. And the Driver Championship now, we have a 1-2 going for us. We have 12 and 15 points on Verstappen. And potentially here, we'll have a fight between Sainz and Norris instead of one with Verstappen, with 3 races remaining. Constructors, pretty healthy lead here. We can actually lose to, whilst gain no points over 2 of the races. But Brazil Sprint Weekend, we'll have to see how we do there. If we just score some points, then Constructors will be in the bag. The final suspension design is finished, and we will start manufacturing it. Even if we rush it, we won't have it ready for Brazil. Because of how things work. Basically, quali is on day 1, so with 5 days to manufacture, will not be ready for Brazil. If we make them normally, we will have them in Las Vegas, so we're just going to go ahead here and make 3 of them normally, and I think that is perfectly a-okay. These should still be a decent little bit of boost though, and in terms of the final piece, it'll be here in 11 days, so, well, we're going to have it a week before the Las Vegas GP, but both cars will have it by Abu Dhabi at latest. Honestly, with how close the find is, I'm not going to put any piece on the car that can't go on the other car as well, to just make things a little bit fair, if you will. Well, can't really call it fair, but you get the idea. If one car doesn't get the part, neither does the other. They will have identical cars for the last 3 races here, because it should make things a little bit more interesting. We also have ATR, but we're not going to use this. Can't really use it for anything other than research. And again, this save is unfortunately going to be ended here with once we're done with this kind of challenge. Pit crew is still really exhausted, and here's the kicker. For the entire month, we haven't actually done anything in terms of developing the pit crew. There has been no real changes, as you can see from the way they've kind of declined. And the main thing here is that even with that, every single race weekend, they've just gotten more and more tired. And you can kind of see it here. We had 69% after Qatar, we had 71% after Koda, and then we have 85% after Mexico. I know for a fact that there was a full rest here, but I think I might have had a couple of sessions here that I forgot to remove. So the fact that you can go from week to week and still gain fatigue is worrisome. But I'll have a look at it. As I said, it's kind of the secondary underlying theme of this whole thing. For now though, let's go to Brazil and see if we can basically clinch the Constructors title. Slightly eventful race here in Brazil. Verstappen did take penalties here, so he started last on the grid. But we still managed to eke out at 1-2. He did get kind of close though, scarily so. Alonso on the podium, lovely to see. Ferrari's doing well. Sonoda scoring points for Alfa Tauri is kind of massive for them. But with this, the Driver Championship now is 6 points, going Norris's way because of how it went during the sprint. And even then, as you can see, we barely gained points on Verstappen. 17 points, 23 points. We could decide this in Vegas, but in terms of the Constructors here, it is settled. We have won the Constructors at the very least. The final design of the season, the underfloor, is finished, and we're just going to go ahead and manufacture it immediately. So we have Las Vegas in 7 days, so we can make one normally. So we're actually going to go ahead here and emergency manufacture one underfloor. And we're going to go ahead and make the other underfloor in a standard time. That way we should have all the upgrades that we have available to us, including the suspension, on Las Vegas. So we'll go ahead, get to the race weekend, and then we'll see exactly how our car looks with the final upgrades on the car itself. Here we are. the car has now been equipped with all its upgrades, and if we were to compare it to, say, not our car, the Red Bull still has a small kph advantage on us, about 0.4, but considering that we have gained a lot of top speed over the course of the, well, the last few upgrades, that is not that massive. And they still have acceleration advantage, Red Bull engine. We still have DRS advantage, low speed cornering advantage, but they've done a little bit of development on the medium and high speed in particular, and have gained a quite a substantial advantage there. They were, again, 0.100 behind us at one point, so they've put in work for sure. Now, with that said, we are not too far off. Red Bull should be the fastest car, I think. So if we really want to go all in, what we could do here is go to the side pods that we made. Remember these no coolie, full speedy pods? We could go ahead and manufacture them for the next race. I probably should have, just for fun. But the main problem is that we probably aren't going to have a car that is competitive come next race. And the main reason why I'm saying this is because both cars have powertrain issues. This is our highest engine. And for that matter, for Sainz here, that's also his highest gearbox. So he's going to be running a bit of a damaged car. Same here for Norris. This is his highest engine. And he does have a little bit of a gearbox advantage due to not crashing in Sandvoort. But those are the pieces they have. Sainz is going to have to win here, I think, at Las Vegas to really have any chance of beating Norris come the last race. So let's see what he can do here, and if they can keep things up. Vegas did not go our way, but we still managed second and third, so I think we can be happy with that. It does put Sainz in a bit of a troublesome situation in terms of the driver championship here. 10 points between him and Norris, which means that that DNF he had in Sandvoort is probably what did him in all honesty. 6 versus 7 race wins, equal amount of podiums. Interestingly enough, we only had 3 pole positions so far. So Verstappen, I believe, is currently under the, well, kind of under the Leclerc curse. And Leclerc has actually converted a pole to a win this season. So that is what it is. But yeah, 10 points between them, 7 points down to Verstappen. Technically, if we have a DNF here, Verstappen could still topple us. So everything is potentially still at play with the driver championship. Unfortunately, not for the constructors. We already won that. These pit stop errors did kind of throw a wrench in our plans because we did end up in traffic because of them. If not, we'd been free to hunt down Verstappen. Would we have got him though? Probably not, but I think we would at least be within DRS distance if we used all of our fuel and energy. So potentially that we could have been somewhat in the fight. Here we are, final race of the season. Norris has a 10-point gap to Sainz. Verstappen is starting pole, we're starting second and third. We have damaged engines, we have damaged gearboxes, which is going to slow us down somewhat. But we're going to try our best here with aggressive strategies for both cars to some degree. For Sainz, we're going to try a medium, hard, medium. We simulated practice, he ended up with an extra set of medium, 1:24.23. And as you can see, this one is estimated to be quicker with an extra pit stop. So we'll have to see exactly how this plays out. Sainz can probably push at the end of his stint here. We might be able to, say, run it like this until we get to the last few laps. Should be more than enough to gain back a few seconds. We can even run it aggressive, but you get the idea. You can run it light, particularly early in the stint. You do save a little bit of time doing that, and you can get that time back later by running aggressive. So we're going to get into the race here. Everything is set up, and hopefully we can have a bit of an interesting end to this season.
Hold on tight. It's the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix. It's lights out and away we go.
Lights out and away we go indeed.
We don't need to take any risks. Okay.
At least we survived turn 1. That is fairly important. Now, because there was a lot of penalties, we have a little bit of a weird top 10 here. Stroll, Gasly, Tsunoda. Piastri ahead of Leclerc, Alonso. But generally here, the main goal of today's race is, as any reasonable team boss would tell you, just survive. As long as we survive the race and finish basically within the top 5, top 6, top 7 even, we are safe. So that's going to be the goal, which means we're going to just settle in here. We're going to allow the race to kind of run its course, and we're not going to do anything super aggressive because we don't really need to. And we already have damage, so even just light damage could potentially put us out of the race if we get a good whack to, say, the gearbox of Sainz, good whack to the engine of Norris. So we'll manage the first stint at least, and then we'll see what we do for the second stint and forwards.
Let's have a look then at turn 6. Cutting it so close. And the contact between the
So
cars.
unfortunately, Sainz has had a bit of an incident, which is bad enough. There's damage was here to begin with, so nothing to be worried about there. But we have minor damage to the front wing and the chassis, and that is gonna probably hurt us a lot, particularly considering that we just pitted. So we don't really have any options here in terms of getting a quick pit stop to change that front wing. We'll just have to live with it. We even pick up a penalty. So as you can imagine, Norris here now, who is going to be pitting himself, probably has the upper hand in terms of strategy. And I'm thinking of changing his strategy to a light soft. So we just do this pit stop and then another. We basically kept him out a little bit too long, honestly, to make that happen. But yeah, Sainz here, unfortunately, got really screwed over there by that incident. We still have to try and make the best out of it, though. There's nothing else we can do. But right now, Norris definitely has the upper hand for sure. Just as we had an incident with Sainz, we now have an incident with Norris. And his is a little bit more severe as he has a terminal front wing. It doesn't look very terminal to me, but if it is terminal, we're definitely going to have to pit him. Yeah, he was actually lacking half of the front wing there. The shadows fooled me. But this is becoming a little bit nerve-wracking that both of our cars already has been in incidents.
Unable to keep out of each other.
And that's going to make Norris' strategy here also a bit more complicated, because this is probably going to force us to, well, get off the, that's the wrong driver, get off the hardest one. But what exactly are we going to put him on? That's going to be a little bit more questionable. So we could run a soft at light, we could run it at standard, we could run an aggressive. And I think that's what we're going to have to do. We're going to have to run an aggressive into an aggressive soft. And is that going to be quicker than the current strategy? Nope, it's going to be slower. But we have to pit, and if we're going to pit, there's no reason to stay onto the hard tire. Literally. Staying on the hard tire here would, hurt us tremendously, so let's take Norris in, get on that new front wing, put him onto a soft tire, and as you can see, we don't actually have the soft tires that we need. So, this is going to be bad. That's the best way I can describe it. This is going to be really bad. So I think what we're going to do is put him onto this soft tire first, and then we'll make a decision once we actually know what the end of the race is going to look like. Because right now we don't, and that is also a big weakness of ours. We're going to turn him aggressive here a little bit before the pits, just so I don't have to deal with that later. And Verstappen is running with Leclerc. Sorry, Sainz is running with Verstappen and Leclerc, so he has his own suit of problems. And he has actually fallen pretty far behind Norris even before this pit stop. And now Norris 2 picks up a time penalty. They are not really equal. Norris's incidents, I would argue, is way more severe. So we'll have to see how this plays out. Then again, Sainz needs 10 points on Norris, basically winning while Norris finishes 5th. So does he still have a chance? Yes. Do I believe it's going to go Sainz's way? Probably not. We'll have to see how the race develops. Sainz has just pitted and served his penalty. He's a good 20 seconds behind Norris, but on the plus side here, we're going to try and do a light conserve medium stint. We'll have to see if we can actually keep it within temperature though. That's going to be the big one. But if he can pull this off, he might very well still have a bit of a chance here. So that's going to be the big one. We'll see how this strategy plays out. And currently Norris, because he has very high smoothness, is able to get more out of these softs than he otherwise would. So it's looking good there, although he does need to pit again. Norris is now pitting for his pit stop. It is done. And Sainz there could not beat him out, which is going to be probably a little bit troublesome for him. I do want to gamble on running attack till the end right now. It is 10 laps. So is it going to be doable? Probably not. We're probably going to need to turn down to aggressive in all honesty, because I can see these made it 16 laps. He's already been on them for almost 10 laps. So We'll just have to tune them down a little bit. For Norris here, he can probably run attack till the end, which is bad news for Sainz. But there's nothing we really can do about it. Again, want to do it as fair as I can. Just picked the wrong strategy for Sainz, I assume. But then again, he does have chassis damage and front wing damage that he has been running with. Norris, on the other hand, didn't have any lasting damage except for the engine. Sainz also has a bit of a problem with his gearbox that doesn't exactly help. So yeah, it is what it is, honestly. There's nothing we can do about it. And I think what we're going to do right now is actually conserve a little bit of fuel. Mainly because if we don't, we are going to end up in trouble. We are going to tune Sainz up a little bit now. I think with basically 5-6 laps to go, running attack should be viable. I think. So we're going to tune that car up to full attack. And once we get down to 0 here, we're going to go back to balanced. But yeah, I don't think there's anything we really can change or, do different here, honestly. So we'll just allow this race to reach its natural conclusion, and then we'll see where we actually end up with this whole season.
For the finish line and today's winner.
There we go. Verstappen wins. Norris comes in 3rd. Sainz is currently in 4th. Honestly, should probably have deployed, but even then, wouldn't have gotten him. So
Great job, mate.
we'll just have to live with this. 3rd and 5th. Not really a, villain story ending to this, but it is what it is. We ended up 3rd and 5th, which is good enough. Verstappen wins, Leclerc 2nd, Perez 4th, Alonso 6th. Russell improves to 7th, which is pretty impressive. Decent improvement here for Hamilton as well. Piastri in 10th. Driver Championship then, we didn't manage a 1-2, but I feel like we had at least a 3-way fight for most of it. 4-man fight if you include Leclerc, at least for a little bit. And it was fairly entertaining, I would say, honestly. Now, Piastri here did finish 10th, so it did get vastly outscored here by Leclerc, but it is what it is. Nothing we can really do with that. And we ended up on a very nice 800 perfect score, if you will. Well, nice number. Nice round number, not a perfect score. But yeah, we pulled it off with a little bit of an ease. I think we're going to have a much harder time when I was thinking with the next team we're going to do this with, which is going to be Alfa Tauri, as they don't have Norris. They're probably going to have a harder time getting someone like Norris, and not only that, we're going to need 2 times Norris. But yeah, car is looking decent, honestly. The main problem is, of course, the fact that we did lack a little bit of powertrain parts, but we did manage to pull through even then. And the car did actually kind of work out with the development of cornering first, top speed later. But yeah, we are going to end this here. Thank you for watching. Hope you've enjoyed this little bit of a challenge. And as I said, we are going to do this again in the future. We're going to try with Alfa Tauri. If that succeeds, we'll go Alfa Romeo. And if that succeeds, we'll probably start over again with Williams and try it on hard difficulty. Let me know if you have any good ideas for, ideas you want to see in terms of challenges, in terms of content for this game, and I'll try my best to oblige. If I like your idea, it might very well be my next video. And if you have enjoyed this type of content, please like and subscribe if you haven't. That helps me out a ton. And I shall see you around next time. Thank you. Bye-bye.